digress. We should really talk about death in Venice because I,
Yeah, let's talk about happier things,
yes, you know what,
Schiavo.
and I'll tell you why.
Let's give people some hope.
Yes. Well, this is kind of depending on how you look at this story, Death in Venice.
Hmm.
It's, it's like what they used to say about Catholicism. It can be depending on your perception. It's either a very very optimistic religion or a very very pessimistic religion.
Hmm.
I basically have gone with the pessimism, thread. But here's the quick summary of the story. Gustav, because this is German, written by Thomas Mann. Late. It was written actually in the late 19th century. Yeah, in the 19th century. I think he published it in 1913 or something,
Hmm.
1912. All right, but it's really about a writer who was very, very conservative and very controlled, very disciplined, um, and conservative in how he lived his life, because he believed that in terms of that the artist needed to be basically away from or kind of outside the society at large. Okay,
Hmm.
because like many artists, and you're an artist, what's the goal? The goal is to try to attain, create, access the beautiful.
Hmm.
Now you're looking to somehow make things that are beautiful ultimately. Okay. Now, there is this notion of that the sublime is like the nth degree of beauty, and that can sometimes be ugly, but that's a digression I don't want to get into. But anyway, the so his thing was always to write, like, he would spend many hours trying to find the right phrase, the right word, the right sentence structure, and so he was very punctilious about his
Hmm.
art, which
Hmm.
was writing. and
Hmm.
and I remember years ago that the old Dick Cavett show, he talked an awful lot with these. He had all kinds of philosophers and actors and artists on, and he always felt, and he did a little bit of everything, acting and so forth, but in writing, that they seem to agree that of all the arts, writing was the most difficult. Okay,
Hmm.
and because I mean, you read something, you also have to have an imagination when you read it something, and you also have to understand the words, and it's very difficult. And then also a writer, and I was very aware of this when I was even in high school,
Hmm.
that I wanted people who read my stuff to react not only intellectually but to react emotionally. Because
Hmm.
my feeling is if you got them, if you could make them feel
Yeah.
what something, make them feel what you were writing about. That's how you really reach them.
So, do
Because
you think feelings are very important for humans?
no question about it. I mean, that's really what makes us human, really.
Because
I mean,
I have someone who tells me that feelings are not facts, feelings are not important.
yeah, I can't agree with that. I
I
think
don't agree either. That's I'm just asking you because
no, 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 no. Well, I feel like, look, we were human beings and we have senses, okay, and we talk about five senses, right?
Hmm.
And those are what help us access the world. Now,
Yep.
philosophers will tell you that our senses can lie to us, okay? So
Hmm.
that when we try to perceive or access the truth, we really have to be careful, which is why they used to get really big on logic, okay?
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
one of the courses I took at the university as a, English major and stuff was a course in logic. I'm going to tell you, it was one of the most difficult courses I ever took because,
Really?
oh, because they have all kinds of rules and about what to do, what not to do, how to construct certain kinds of sentences, and
Yeah.
it was very difficult.
Mm.
Now, and of course, my job was to say, okay, with students, is to say, you have to be when you write, you're going to have to employ logic, and then of course that logic is going to help you um, organize your feelings. So when you write, yeah, you got your feelings, but then also it's going to be logical. I mean,
Hmm.
you hear when people start spewing words out based only on their feelings, it sounds a little kind of weird, I think
Hmm.
always like
Hmm.
they got these feelings and they can't organize them. They
They
can't.
can't articulate it properly.
Yeah, really, really,
Hmm. Hmm.
So, so anyway, going back to Aschenbach. So Aschenbach now, he says, okay, I need a vacation.
Hmm.
Okay, so he decides he's going to go to Venice. Okay, and now, of course, in Europe, as a German, Venice was and Italy was considered to be like tropical and very much so Italianate in the sense that the Italians are big on the senses again, food,
Hmm.
music,
Hmm.
culture, uh, love, lust, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And kind of compared to the Germans, culturally unrepressed. Okay, so now he goes, and of course, uh, I want to go through the whole story, but all through the story there are these images of like these characters that are strangers that show up. I guess while he's still in Germany, he sees a red-headed stranger in a cemetery where he's walking or whatever, and all throughout the characters that represent problems for Aschenbach
Hmm.
are all redheaded. Why? They're supposed to really
The
symbolize the devil,
devil. The
the
devil.
devil, right? And of course, because guess where the devil hangs out in hell in the inferno. And by the way, this story really relates to what I'm talking about the inferno
Hmm.
last time because
Yeah.
what happens is that Venice uh, is oftentimes a metaphor or an archetype for decay, death, things like that. Why?
Hmm.
Well, hey, it's been sinking for decades. Okay, I think I think since I don't know when, how many hundreds of years. It's almost sunk 6 inches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're surrounded by water and in the water, 6 inches can mean
Wow.
life and death, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so at anyway, and of course, when you go to Venice, people are many times put off by the smell because you have all that sulfury smell, of course, and of course, what people would think, well, in the flames in hell, it's all
Yeah.
sulfurous, right?
Yeah.
So uh, there's that because of the decaying algae and stuff that's in the bays and the canals
Oh,
and that.
really?
Oh yeah. I mean, some people now look. A, a fishing, sailing, net,
Yeah.
boating. So I'm well aware there are really beautiful fresh smells with the ocean, the salty, fresh smells. And but then when you go into certain areas because of decaying, matter, you're going to get this sulfurous kind of a smell,
Hmm.
like sulfur, like what it's like bad flatulence a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So, so he goes, and he sees another strange red-headed guy on the ferry going across, and then of course now here's the other thing. In order to get to Venice, you park on land, and then you have to take a boat across to get to the city. And of course, the image there is the same image that have in Dante's Inferno, and then what you also have in Greek and Roman mythology that uh, human beings have to cross the river Styx. Okay, the river
Hmm.
Styx. Charon is the ferryman. You got to tip him. He takes you across from the land of the living to the land of the dead. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's virtually what Aschenbach winds up doing. He's going to a place where eventually he's going to die. Okay, so but again, as an artist who has worked real hard to seek and create beauty, beauty is a thing. It's a goal in his life, and he's trying to attain the beautiful. And let me give you now some philosophy. Let me stop there and say to you the following: that in philosophy, and I used to teach this in school about writing. Anytime you see an author or a poet, whatever, using a capital letter
Hmm.
for especially an adjective, right away, it means it's an abstraction. So, love with a capital L is an abstraction.
Hmm.
Hope, charity, uh, you know, things like that. Faith, those are all with capital first letters. Those are those ideas in the abstract.
Hmm.
Okay, so you sit there. Well, how do you when is it concrete? Well, it's only concrete when you see manifestations of it. So how do you know that what do you know about charity? Well, you know that charity will exist when people are charitable to others, that by giving them food and shelter and
Yeah.
donating and things like that, or or when people are in love, they manifest their actions manifest that love. Okay,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
small L,
Hmm.
small L. So so what happens now, of course, is that he's looking for beauty with a capital B. And by the way, all these abstractions uh, are perfections. So beauty with a capital B is perfect. Okay,
Mm.
truth, capital T, perfect.
Mm.
Love, capital perfect, and God, capital G, perfect. And
Mhm.
so what they would say is, the philosophers would say, especially the ancient Western philosophers, they are all one. That in monotheism, all those things reside. That God is all those things. So
Mhm.
God is beauty, God is truth, God is charity, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so they talk about that. All things, and like in religion, Christian religion, all things reside in God with a capital G. So now, of course, what most artists do is they access some level of beauty, some level of truth with their art, but it's
Mhm.
not perfect, right? It's
Yeah.
not perfect.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. So now he goes, and of course, again, as a well-educated writer in Europe and in Germany, he knew his classical literature and mythology and stuff like that, and about this whole notion of trying to attain beauty. So he goes and he's there and he meets at the hotel. He meets this Polish family with this with a son. The son is 14 years old, and
Mhm.
Ashabak looks at him and says, "My God, he is the embodiment of pure beauty."
Mhm.
Okay, pure beauty. He's looking at him as an artist would look at a sculpture. Okay, so it starts off there, and there's some when you read it, there's some element that, well, he was married, but he always wanted a son, never had a son, so that says, hey, well, maybe his interest at the beginning is parental. It doesn't work out that way. He winds up falling in love with this boy named Tadzio, Tadzio. Okay,
Mhm.
Tadzio, because to him, to Ashabak, he represents yes, this ideal of perfect beauty. He just can't believe it. And as an artist always seeking the beautiful, he is unable basically to dissociate, those feelings. They become, all of a sudden, it becomes from being objective and aesthetic. All of a sudden, he starts to become erotic, starts to become physical.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, let's get this straight. At no time in this story, it's considered to be a novella. It reads, in most translations, it reads about 70 pages, right?
What's a novella? A small
Novella,
novel?
yeah, small novel, right?
Small novel.
Small novel, novella. See, in Italian, that "ella" part means little.
Small. Little.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. That's one. They have many endings for that, but
Yeah.
All right. So White winds up that, but he never acts on his now physical attraction, his erotic attraction. It's
Mhm.
all basically in his, I guess, in his head,
Mhm.
as well as his loins, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, it's kind of interesting because, society would abhor his having this lust for this young boy,
Mhm.
because they would have felt, oh, homosexuality is, just not right. Okay, and I wouldn't classify Aschenbach as a pedophile. Okay, this is not about, because the kid is a child. Really, he's something else. He's more than that. Okay, and have also in ancient Greece, for example, uh, the the rich philosophers and stuff like that in ancient Greece
Mhm.
had relationships with young boys just like Tadzio.
Really?
Yes, and make no mistake that the society, even though it was supposed to be prohibited, the society said it's really okay
Really?
because
Wow.
it was actually good for the old men and it was good for the young boys. They learned an awful lot. They had the benefit of the education, the wisdom, the riches of these old men.
Mhm.
And so it was, and of course, I'll tell you a great book. It's not an easy read. Okay, there's a book called Sexual
Hmm.
Persona, written by uh, a literary scholar. She's a lesbian feminist literary scholar. Her name is Camille Paglia, Paglia, because in Italian the GL is like a y. Okay,
Hmm.
so Paglia, not Paglia. Okay, yeah, and I'll tell you right now, I loved it because my background is in that stuff. My background is in classical Greek and Roman literature, mythology, whatever. And it really helps if you have that kind of a background.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a tough read. Not to mention, she uses a lot of vocabulary, but you as an artist might appreciate it because she talks about various kinds of art
Mm.
from ancient times to the present and how um, most of the males, okay, in art, the topics were kind of androgynous looking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they had the elements of both the male and the female, and were considered to be in the ancient world, and even I think by a lot of artists today, that they're at that point. These boys becoming men are at that point of their most beautiful. Okay,
Hmm.
and I have to say, I mean, I understand it
Yeah.
intellectually, I understand
Yeah.
it aesthetically. I get it. Because look, I mean, I could say at one point, man, phew, I was a beauty. I was a beauty, at certain ages. But that changes. All of a sudden, your look changes. I
Hmm.
remember when somebody who was an ex-nun said to me, she goes, you're getting to the age now. You're starting to lose your looks. And I said, yeah, well, the girls are still chasing me and still calling me handsome. So I guess maybe you're seeing something that they're not seeing. But
Hmm.
she wasn't necessarily wrong because all of a sudden I was getting to that point and I could see it myself that all of a sudden, yeah, people I could see where I was starting to age. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
others could see it. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm a big believer in like life has changed. So whatever the change is, you have to embrace it. Okay.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, I'm no longer that young, beautiful boy, that Tadzio type 14-year-old, 17-year-old even.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, but also when I got older, hey, I had to embrace getting my white hair. I
Hmm.
had to embrace, as I'm doing now, my aging body. I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't, it makes you crazy. Okay. And
Yeah.
it makes you unhappy. And you know what? Life's too short to be unhappy and miserable.
Hmm.
Just this.
Yeah.
So, but most people can't escape that. I mean, most people are ungrateful, and I mean, they're unhappy because they're not grateful. They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah. They won't
So,
accept the changes. They want to
yeah,
go
really.
back to, they want to go
Right.
back to, how things were beautiful and happy. And
Well, yeah. And so now, and what's interesting about Aschenbach is he kind of starts to realize what's happening, and he does kind of understand that this desire he has for this Tadzio that's moving from an, a pure aesthetic
hmm.
to something much more erotic is inappropriate for him, inappropriate culturally and personally. And I mean, remember, I mean, if you want to go into Freudian terms, I mean, he's a highly repressed human being. He had to discipline himself and contain himself, restrict himself his whole life to create his art. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Freud had a theory called it was the theory of compensation. Okay.
Hmm.
And what would happen would be, he said, look, when you restrict and restrain certain things in one area,
Yeah.
what happens is other areas will break out to compensate for
Yes.
repression.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. So finally, what happens is his sensuality, his eroticism, which he had under great control for a long time, because he was married, I think he was married and whatever. Uh, but this all of a sudden it just starts to sprout, okay, and he's can't really control himself anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, uh, getting long and short of it is, as he now is starting to decay, just like the city of Venice is decaying. Okay, and he's starting to really, he's already going across the water, like he crossed the river Styx, and now Venice is becoming his inferno. Okay, his hell.
Hmm.
And Then what happens is all of a sudden there's an outbreak in Venice of cholera, which is killing a lot of people. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
devastating disease. Think of diarrhea taken to the tenth degree. Okay,
Oh
it's
no.
oh no, really, it's a horrible disease.
Hmm.
And so uh, and he knows about it, and he doesn't warn the family of Tadzio's family because he doesn't want Tadzio to go away. Okay. And also, he winds up staying. He should know better, but he winds up staying because he wants to keep seeing Tadzio. Okay.
Hmm.
When I say see him, he's looking at him from basically from afar. Okay.
Hmm.
I want to clear there's no physical interaction whatsoever. Okay. So the long and short of it is his obsession with Tadzio, his obsession with this what he feels is this physical manifestation of beauty in this young boy
Hmm.
basically kills him because he stays. And what does Ashabak do? In the famous last scene, he's on the beach in Venice. Okay, I forget the name of the beach now, so help me. Anyway, and he dies very quietly in his beach chair of cholera. Okay,
Mm.
and he sees him he sees him. Oh, by the way, what the scene too is he sees Tadzio walking along the water line, okay, and Tadzio's puts up his hand and is reaching up, you know, to the sky and that's Asherbach's last view of him.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, this motion of going up, reaching for beauty, reaching for the eternal, all that kind of stuff. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's a really kind of fascinating story because I mean it's so tightly written and it's so uh, exacting when it came to the metaphor and
And the
symbolism.
symbolism and all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's just a really great story. But this kind of leads us though to what drives artists in general,
Yep.
and it also leads us to discussions really of homosexuality. I think
Yeah, and
because
also suppressing the desires that you have and suppressing your authentic self of what you want and going after things that and living a full life. It has to do with, that book seems to resonate with a lot of things that we talk about.
yeah, for talking about that compensation, I am always saddened by, but not surprised by, how so many homosexuals commit suicide.
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, it's Freud's compensatory theory at work. In other words, they've been so busy having to restrain
Yes.
their sensuality,
Yeah.
okay, and
Hmm.
their being,
Their
okay.
being, their
Yeah,
feelings, who they want, all of
that
it.
eventually they just go, it comes out in a negative way. They just go, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And one of the great sadnesses is that people don't, even with all this education around us, people don't know, just don't understand why others are homosexual. And to
Hmm.
me, it's simple. It's an understanding of biochemistry, really. Okay,
Yeah.
so some people, when they're gestating in mom's womb, they get more female hormones than male hormones, and even though they may be male, they'll come out and they'll grow up and be more effeminate, and vice versa.
Hmm.
Um, and and look, here, it's simple biology. That's simple, but it's nature produces hermaphrodites, okay?
Hmm.
Which means
Hmm.
they have the sexes of both
Yep.
genders, male
Yep.
and female. And doctors, my wife will tell you this all the time as an RN, lots of times the doctors would never tell the parents that the kids were hermaphrodites. What they would do is, based upon whatever uh, parts that they saw, they'd make the decision to whether it was going to be they should make it a male, they should emphasize the male or the female.
And they
And
would
lots
do
of times,
surgery or
yeah, they would do what they had to do, and they would make mistakes. Okay, all of a
oh,
sudden, a guy is growing up, and apparently as a male, and says, "I don't feel right. There's something not right about my
yeah.
being."
Hmm.
And then eventually, hey, my God, I really should have been a female. Okay,
Hmm.
and vice versa. Now, that's got to be a tough decision for the individual. Okay, got to be tough.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and I don't know that I could make it myself. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. But just like uh, I've had it heard from many, many homosexuals. I had homosexual colleagues and students, and they all kind of said the same thing to me. You know what? When I was about five or so, I realized that I was much more attracted to the same sex, not
Hmm.
the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I remember clearly when I was at that age, I was very much attracted to the opposite sex.
Wow. So you know at a very young
Oh,
age.
no question about it. I think I
Hmm.
told the story in the previous podcast. When I was in Brooklyn, we were in Brooklyn. Let me think. I was in Brooklyn up until midway through the fourth grade.
Hmm.
So I remember second, third grade, whatever age I was then. In the summertime, Brooklyn had tarmac streets and concrete sidewalks, and of course we were kids, and we would play cowboys and Indians and all kind of stuff. And every once in a while, and then there was this one girl, and I keep thinking her name was Sally. Okay, I don't know why. It could be Alice, but some kind of name like that.
Yeah.
And I remember clearly. I think I'm going to tingle even telling the story. Um, where she would wear these kind of short summer frocks.
Yeah.
She would be, remember, barefoot. She'd be barefoot on the concrete sidewalk. Okay, as most of us were running around barefoot, and she would wear these like very simple, very plain. And I keep thinking that the dress was blue. And of course, we always did as playing cowboys and Indians. She would be the one who was going to be the damsel in distress who was supposed to be tied to a tree or
Oh my God,
or
that's
a
funny.
stake with her arms behind her back,
Hmm.
waiting to be rescued by
Oh
one
my
of
God,
us.
that's funny.
Yeah, and when it was my turn to rescue her,
Hmm.
I would get close and make believe I was untying, ropes and stuff. I used to get all tingly. I used to get
Wait,
this
how old?
fun.
How old were you?
Well, I said it was at least in the third grade.
Third grade.
However,
Okay. Hmm.
whoever you are, whatever age you are in the third grade, I don't
I
even
don't.
know.
I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, I don't. All I know is I had feelings.
Yeah,
I had
feelings and
feelings.
tingling.
Tingling, yeah. Okay. And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And every time I got close to girls, I would say, ooh, ooh, there's something, ooh.
So
And
you're attracted to women.
well, yeah, that's my point. My
Yeah.
point was there was never any doubt, you see? There was never any doubt. And yet from, former colleagues and
Yeah.
friends and students who were in fact homosexual, male and female, they would
Hmm.
say the same thing to me. They got close to same-sex individuals,
Yeah.
kids, and they go, "Oh my God, like, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I was questioning what was going on. I wasn't, I think, mature enough to realize that you know, that I was in fact what people would call a heterosexual. I
Yeah.
just when I got near Sally, I got tingly. You know, it's just the way
Sally
it
in
is.
her frock.
Yeah, really. But I mean, but see, people don't remember stuff that I guess I don't know. I know whatever. But looking at Aschenbach, he had this, and see, this is the other issue. Freud would say, and a lot of, and I remember I used to talk to the students in my classes, and about science and biology and things like that. The Freudian view is that all human beings are bisexual. Okay,
Really? Hmm.
bisexual,
Hmm.
and certainly it makes sense because lots of my students who were sharp knew, as I knew, that when women get pregnant, that their fetus starts out as a female.
Yeah. Yeah.
Starts
That's
right,
what I was
you know
gonna
that,
say.
right?
That's what I was thinking as you were talking
It
before.
starts as a female, and then as various, hormones kick in and biochemistry works its magic, all
Yeah.
of a sudden, and again, they'll become, the fetus can become a male, right?
Yeah.
And that's my point that at some point in that gestation, things happen,
Things
and
change, the chemicals and all of
exactly,
it. Hmm.
exactly right, yeah. And just like so, if nature can produce hermaphrodites with both sexes,
Yeah.
they can certainly produce, you know, male homosexuals,
Yeah.
female
Like a
homosexuals.
wide range of everybody. Like
Exactly right.
nature's
Yeah.
gonna produce every range. So every feelings or whatever you are, that's
Yeah.
part of nature.
So sexuality is really on a spectrum, and most people are not taught that.
Yeah.
They're not taught that, and they believe that somehow it's a curse, somehow
Hmm.
it's a sin, whatever.
Yeah.
Sin is a religious term. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, look, and also it goes by culture. For example, American Indians, most of the American Indian tribes, they had when they had gay men, they thought they would that that man was touched by the gods, touched by the Great
Mm,
Spirit,
hmm,
okay?
hmm.
And they treated that man with humongous respect and
Wow, which is the
humongous.
opposite of today, right?
Yeah, yeah, and certain cultures would do that, you know.
Yeah.
In a Judeo-Christian culture, it was considered to be anathema. Now, did it exist? Of course,
Mhm.
but the whole idea was to try to get people to not exhibit that in public, you know, culturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I see that's why I have a big problem with religion is the fact that they're trying to tell you how to live your life.
Yeah. It's trying to
Thinking,
control you,
who the hell are you to tell
tell
me?
you the rules and how you should,
Yeah.
operate.
Well, for example, if you look at the paper just the last couple of days, Indonesia now is just created, made into a law that people who are not married can't have sex.
What?
That's it. Read the papers. Read the papers.
What?
They said that it's illegal for people to have
Don't
sex.
go to Indonesia.
No, that's the first thing. He said, well, why would I go there? Okay, why would I go? Why would I live there? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, look, we're trying to this country. You know, we look at you say, oh my God, they must be nuts over there. I mean, they're going to try to really take something which is totally natural, make it illegal, and
That's crazy.
yes, it's not going to stop. I mean, they're not going to stop people from screwing. That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. No, you
that's
can't.
not
No.
that's not how Mother Nature, you know,
No.
wants
Not
this,
at
right?
all.
But look at what the Supreme Court in this country is doing. They're going to try to now do that. They're going to try. They will probably slowly but surely try to uh, renege on gay marriage. They're going to try to renege on certainly. They want to. I mean, I find this unbelievable, but they want to not allow people to have contraception. And I'm going, you know, I mean, they're talking about this stuff. It's out there. I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
So, but I just think it's always a bad idea when governments and or religions try to repress their populations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good way. Look, I think if you're a religious leader, uh, I don't know that if you wanted to keep your congregation, you know, or the congregations, that you tell them, well, you can't do this and you can't do that because God says that you shouldn't do it. And I'm going, are you kidding me?
People are gonna do it no matter what. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
human
but
nature and it's gonna come out.
and it, when and the people who do it, they suffer,
Yeah.
and consequently they make other people suffer
Well, just
until
like you
some,
said, like what the compensation, what Freud said, right? Compensation.
yeah, right.
If it's not
Except
gonna come out this way, it's gonna come out another way.
well, this is it. I mean, so you know, and of course, now by the way, too. Now, for example, some people. I mean, there's a positive to it. I mean, some people like if they are restrained, constrained, restrained, or they are repressed. Sometimes they say, well, wait, they focus their energies. Actually, like Aschenbach did, he focused his energies in his art, his writing.
Yeah.
Some are sculptors, some are, you know,
Yeah, but
painters.
did he die happy?
Uh, well, he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't. Uh,
And he wanted
yeah,
more.
he didn't. He didn't. He didn't
Explore
obtain.
his
Yeah.
sexuality.
Well, yeah, he didn't obtain the beauty that he was looking for. Because
Yeah.
again, here's the
Yeah.
other thing, and he knew it. You cannot access perfect beauty in this life. You
There's no
can't
such
do it.
thing as
Yeah,
perfection, someone told me.
yeah. Yes, I told you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
know, I'm joking.
I know. But I just tell it to my students because I would say, like, you know, especially if they had parents who said, well, you've got to get all A's.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never believed that.
Yeah.
I never believed, and
No.
I didn't want students to, or I had a girl, I'll never forget it. She was a Jehovah's Witness. She was such a cutie pie. She was a black girl, and she had perfect attendance from like kindergarten.
Wow.
Kindergarten. I mean, she never
Wow.
missed a day. And I remember she was a senior, and I kept telling her, "Come on, come on, cut, cut school one day. Cut it.
Oh my
Cut
God,
school
you're
one day.
trying to tell her that?
Go to the beach." Well, it was like I was the devil. Okay,
That's so
and,
funny.
and you remember, and she was a devout Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, yeah.
One day, and of course, now I was in the office, and some of the secretaries in the office would hear me saying this stuff and doing this stuff, and they just would roll their eyes and stuff. And then the principal came by, Don Meehan. He was like,
Yeah,
"Are you kidding me? You kidding me? Are you trying? What are you thinking? What
yeah.
are you thinking? Perfect. This is like a probably a school record, a district record, perfect attendance. But I used to tell her, I said, I'm a little concerned about you. I want you to, lighten up
Yeah. Live
but
a
she was,
little.
yeah, she was an excellent student, and she, of course, she never did cut school, and and I was, but I guess I think she knew I was teasing her. Okay, I knew because I think she knew that I knew she wouldn't do it. Okay,
Hmm.
and when the principal heard me do it, he was aghast because he goes, "Oh my God, if she listens to Schiavo, man, this could be a nightmare."
Yeah.
And I didn't want to tell him that she wasn't going to listen to me. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
another thing I really liked about her was she knew her mind about
Yeah.
this particular thing. It was great.
Yeah. Even if you didn't agree, at least she stood by what she believed, right?
Yeah, that's it. And to be fair to her, if I don't know how she went. I didn't know what happened after she graduated high school. But I think she was a very organized and bright, and she was going to go off and get a college education.
Hmm.
And I wished her well then, and I wish her well now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that I know I've known so many people who were absolutely made unhappy, frustrated, almost crazy by trying to follow the rules of a
Yes.
culture that if they had really thought about it, if the
Hmm.
people had really, the culture doesn't really care
No.
ultimately.
Yeah.
They
The
really
culture doesn't care. Corporate America doesn't care. Nobody really cares, but like growing up in like the patriarchal society or a male dominated family where you have to be following all the militant rules of your family life, you get stuck in that cycle of feeling like you have to meet those expectations, and then one day you wake up and realize, yo, none of this shit makes me happy, so I got to throw all of it out the door and figure out what makes me happy. And that's where I am. So I'm trying to live my best life.
well, yeah, and I'll tell you, I came upon it early. I don't know what combination of genetics, experiences,
Hmm.
I, somehow I just knew, and I have essays to prove it from my high school days
Yeah, yeah.
about. I used to rail about conformity, and I was
That's
anti.
great. That's amazing. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I
and I
am
have.
blessed that I had you as a teacher.
Well, I appreciate that, but I mean, but then I was preaching nonconformity to my students. I
Yeah.
was preaching. You need to understand. You need to be an individual.
Mhm.
And if that means defying your parents, defying your teachers,
Mhm.
defying your priests and rabbis, well then you can do it respectfully. You
Yeah.
could tell them, well, no, I'm not buying into that.
Yeah.
I remember once telling my mother, she was trying to sell me on her view of how my life should be. And I said, hey, why would I want to be like you? I said, I don't want to be
How
like
old
you.
were you when you told her that?
Oh, I was in my teens. I was probably 16, 15,
Really?
16. Oh, yeah. And I told her, I said, you lots of good things, Mom, but you know what? Why would I want to be like you? You're always hostile and angry,
Mhm.
You're not always yelling about something. You just don't seem happy.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, that's not what I want to be. I want to be able
Mm.
to do stuff that makes me happy. I
Yeah.
want to be, and of course, the other thing was that too. There's concern with parents. Well, my mother was obsessed about my getting a college education, so
Yeah.
anything that would get in the way of that, surfing, fishing, Betty Lou,
Betty
whatever,
Lou. Yeah.
those things were anathema to her because, you know, but because what she wanted was she had a free shot at. I think I told you this Hunter College, and she couldn't go because of a dying sick mother. She had
Yeah.
to take care of her and her younger siblings.
So that's why she wanted to make sure you did it and
Yeah,
like
but
basically, succeeded in her dream that she wanted that she
yeah,
couldn't do.
yeah, it was her dream.
It was her projection onto you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And okay, you could say, well, that's a great idea. You have a mother who wants you to go to college, okay? But there's a way to do that without being horrendous and without being unhappy, without being
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hmm.
And what I found is that most people who and like that had to do with parenting now. Parents have to walk a fine line.
Yeah.
You want X amount of discipline, X amount of
Hmm.
control, whatever. But then you also have to say there are times when kids say, "I got to let my kid go. I got to let my kid, spread."
Yeah.
its wings. And
Yeah. Because your kids are not yours, like you
well,
can't project.
I remember I sent you the prophet. Your children are not your children. They're
Yeah.
you know,
I
like
wonder where I spew these things from.
yeah, uh,
Where do I get all these random things that come out of my
because of the book I sent you and other stuff and
Yeah.
things like
So
that. But
all your knowledge seeps into my
yeah,
brain.
but I don't want to look, Linda. I don't want to take all that kind of credit. I think that you, like a lot of young people, you had the gifts to find it on your own.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I did that I'll accept. I'll accept as true, and that is, I gave the permission
Yes.
you guys to
That
do
is it.
that. I
That is
said,
it.
yeah, I was the one adult who
Mm-hmm.
would say, it's okay.
Yes.
You
That is
can
the
be
perfect
what you
word
get.
that you just said. You gave us permission.
I gave you permission. I gave you permission to be
Yep.
yourselves,
Yep.
whatever that was.
Yep.
And I would also sometimes say, if I didn't like what I was seeing, I'd say, you know what? I want you to be yourself, but here's
But
something that I think you need to maybe address. Well, you
yeah.
need to understand.
Hmm.
And I gave permission, but I also would said, like a good parent, I would think you have permission to do this stuff, but you also have to learn how far you can go
Yeah.
over time. In other
Hmm.
words, and as you do, and the more you develop in a positive way, then the more permission you're going to get
Yep.
to continue being your best self. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever that self is, you
Yep.
see.
Exactly.
So, who did I just talk to? Oh, I know. I was talking to a guy I know, a landscaper, and his son. He was a little bit upset. His son had gotten to college, and because of the of COVID, he didn't do well, like doing the online stuff. It just wasn't him, and the Zoom classes and everything else, and he kind of bailed. So anyway, he now he's in Suffolk, and by the way, Suffolk does a great. I said this a couple of times in my book discussion. Suffolk does a great job. Suffolk Community College does a great job of preparing kids for the SUNY system, for the four-year colleges like Stony Brook. They
Hmm.
do an excellent job. Okay, so it's not like, oh my, somehow it's less than. No, it's actually quite good.
Hmm.
But anyway, so but the father was saying, well, I've been giving, and there's no, my son doesn't know what he wants to do, so I've been giving him these options. And I said to the father, I said, look, you tell your son, okay, I went to college. From the time I was in high school, everybody said, oh, you're so good in English and writing and vocabulary and speaking, you should be a lawyer. So all the way through, okay, I took my degree in English to be a lawyer, not to be a teacher. This was
Hmm.
at St. John's. Why? St. John's was very well known for their excellent law school, especially at night, the night law school. Okay?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were working, they had to go to the law school at night. So it was just like it was always my major. It was my major. It was the reason for my English degree was to go become a lawyer,
Yeah.
which was still the plan when I graduated from St. John's. I had taken
Mm.
I think I took three education courses. Why? Because I said, you know what? I may need a fallback position because of Vietnam.
Yeah.
I may need to go to go to teach to make money to go to law school. Also have a legal way to avoid the draft, possibly. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that wasn't my original. My wasn't my goal.
Yeah. That wasn't your goal or your
Right.
plan.
Right. So I said to the father, I said, look, it wasn't until I actually got a teaching job in preparation to make money to go to law school
Yeah.
that I realized, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
Why do I want to go to more school, read more books, and be a lawyer when
Hmm.
I'm loving this, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm making
Yeah.
peanuts, but I
Yeah.
was single. I said, I don't tell everybody, well, I'm single. I have no intention of getting married. I don't
Hmm.
need a lot of money to live.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
have money to buy a new surfboard or keep up my horse or whatever. That's all I need in this life. I don't need much,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I said, and by the way, you're talking about, you know, occupations for your son, which look, when I was a kid his age, we had very few big ticket occupations. It was engineering, medicine, or law.
Hmm.
Okay, and but all the money making things now never didn't exist. Things like in technology and
Yeah. It's
healthcare.
like endless. It's like unlimited.
So your son, he needs to understand from you that he'll have plenty of time to make his decision. He
Yeah.
doesn't have to do it now,
Yeah.
and he's more likely to do it in his early 20s or to mid 20s.
Yeah.
And he needs to be allowed, he needs to, and I use the word permission. I said, you need to give him permission to find what works for him.
Yeah, to
It's
find his way. And it's and
yeah,
honestly, that's hysterical because like so many people I've talked to on the podcast, I asked them like, what did you want to be when you grow up? Or what did you think that
yeah,
your plan for your life was? And a
sure.
lot of them never ended up doing what they planned to do. Like, someone thought they would be a dentist, another one thought that they'd
Sure.
be like a gynecologist,
Right,
and now they're like completely different things. So even though you've planned your life to be this certain way,
right.
people need to realize that's not really, it could be something completely deviated another way that's showing you what you really want to do.
I mean, it's remarkable. Look, you know, I understand parents wanting to guide their children and put them in the right direction, but I've known so many people that just didn't know what they wanted to do,
Yeah.
and sometimes they were given options that they never would have thought of, and they did them. But it's so interesting too. Sometimes, like I know kids, it's like sometimes they like to blame their parents for uh, what they became.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, sometimes the parents deserve blame, and sometimes they don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like whose life are you living?
Well, that's just it. But
You know?
the problem is, I've known many young people who were, I guess the word would be feckless. They just had
Feckless?
no feckless, Feckless,
Feckless.
Yeah,
What's
Feckless.
the what's the meaning of feckless?
Well, basically, they were kind of at sea. They had no real ambition. They had no real
Mm. Hmm.
uh, thing that they really wanted to do. Nothing they really.
Yeah.
Some people. I'm thinking of one person and I can't name that person because it's a person. It's a person in the family,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just remarkable that there was just no ambition to be anything in
But did
particular.
they blame the parents?
Absolutely.
Well, like, I
Every
mean, like, I'm an example. If I had blamed my parents, what kind of person would I be? I wouldn't be the person I am today if I just blamed my parents and just be
right.
like, well, they did this to me, so this is the way I am, and be like an unsuccessful person who is miserable and a drug addict probably or alcoholic.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think that there's, and also this is the other thing. Um, you sometimes have to, and a lot of people don't do it enough. You've got to let your past go.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
you can't be blaming this person, that person. You can't hold grudges. You just can't. There are things that you do. You say, you know what? Like there are times when you say, I can't deal. This person's toxic. It's not that I hold a grudge. I just know I can't deal with this person. It's not healthy for me.
Hmm.
It's not healthy for that person. So let that person go.
Yeah.
Let this episode of my life go. You
Hmm.
know, it was ugly, and I just have to put it behind me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people find it real hard to do that. My mother couldn't do it. That's why
Yeah.
she was so miserable on hospital most of her life because she remembered every slight, major or minor, and she
Yeah.
just couldn't let it go. And I'm thinking,
Yeah. Yeah.
my father, who was an orphan, was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
He let everything go.
Hmm.
He was as
So
mellow.
really, I mean, it has to do with a lot of biochemical of like how your brain developed, how you process
Sure.
things as
Yeah.
a child, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No question about it. So I kind of I mean, my sister and I would always say that we kind of like, because of these two opposites, okay, as parents, we found the middle ground. We found
Well, thank God you found a middle ground of the two.
yeah, yeah, and I think that that's where some of us get lucky, with our past. But I think that going, and I guess we have to end soon, but going back to Aschenbach, trying to attain
Beauty.
perfection, perfect beauty, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Uh, that whole thing, if he had let that go, he wouldn't have found himself being attracted to a 14-year-old boy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have said, you know what? Yeah, I get it. I know I was kind of constrained and repressed and stuff like that. But now this is going in the, it's like the slingshot effect. It's
Yeah.
like the Freudian compensatory theory. It's going in it's going in an opposite direction. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
going from one extreme to another extreme, and
Yeah.
that's not healthy. And in fact, it was so unhealthy, it killed him.
It killed him. It killed
Yeah,
him. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So the lesson for today is fuck it all and just do whatever the hell you want to do.
No, that's a little too loosey goosey for my taste, I think. I don't know. I don't know that I want to go that far.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I
But
know.
really, everyone has to find their happiness and joys of
Yeah,
whatever it is that you love, because that's going to make you into a confident individual like you, who, was able to find their happiness and bliss and joy in
yeah.
life.
I know, and I tell you, I'm still having a good time. And the other thing is that um, I learned a long time ago that by letting things go that
Hmm.
were really, annoying, uh, I stayed happy. And
Yeah.
then also, uh, I had the confidence and the willingness to make people laugh and smile,
Yeah.
because I'm saying, you know what? Uh, I'm alive. Life is a great gift. It's a great joy. And why should I be miserable every day? And I also felt that, and I assumed pretty much correctly, that lots of people were not perceiving life that way, that they
Yeah.
were kind of unhappy. So one of the things about, like, when uh, you've seen my red convertible. Whenever I drive the convertible, okay,
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
wearing a wide brim hat,
Hmm.
uh, a brightly colored flowered shirt,
Yeah.
okay, and my license plate says Captain Willie on it,
Hmm.
which of course people think is dirty. Now, if you're British, you go, well, no, Willie is what they call a man's penis, okay, like,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people start to smile. They think, oh my God, that's really kind of funny,
Hmm.
okay. Also, they see me in my whole regalia, the bright red car, the
Yeah. Yeah.
brightly colored shirts.
Hmm.
And I was with a friend of mine, one of my old surf buddies, and he said, "Well, I don't." He said, "Do you think they're laughing at you?" I said, "Well, it doesn't make any difference if they're laughing at me or they're laughing with me, as
They're
long as they're
laughing.
smiling. As long as they're smiling. If
Mm.
I'm putting a smile on their face for
Hmm.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
They're smiling, okay? They're getting a positive feeling, okay? And most people I found weren't laughing at me. They were kind of saying, "My God, that's really fun.
Yeah.
This guy looks like he's having fun."
Yeah,
And
this
I
guy
was
looks like
having,
he's enjoying his life. And
yeah,
honestly, it probably attracts them to you to want to talk to you. I'm like, this guy's enjoying his life. Let me talk to him.
yeah. And they're always astounded when they start to talk to me about, I'm probably one of the more positive people they talk to. Now
Yeah.
again, mo- I had to say this, Linda. One of the reasons why I've always been able to be so cheerful is that I never had children. It's because I didn't have to worry about them getting
Yeah.
sick, run over. I'd have to
Hmm.
spend money on them. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. People, you're being who you want to be. Sometimes say you make decisions that, well, no one says you have to get married, and no one says you have to have children.
Hmm.
Why do you have to have children? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
you really don't. And if you don't feel it, don't do it. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and I'll tell you who I used to always really be, I still am impressed with. I knew a lot of women. I mean, I more than you would think, who from the get-go, from the time they were teenagers, said,
Hmm.
"I don't want to have children," and they
Mm.
stood by that, and they didn't have children.
Really?
Yes, they
Really?
did not have children. Yeah, and I gave them humongous appreciation and respect for that, because I just don't. I mean, so many people have children, and they shouldn't at all. They're not made
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Uh, they're just not happy with it.
Hmm.
No, there is no such thing as maternal instinct. That's another
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
There are lots of women who go, I don't really like my child. I don't even forget about loving my child. I don't even like the child. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this it just and that of course that's tough. You know, but I mean, the reality of it is people believe in all this nonsense. Oh, the women have maternal instinct. No,
Hmm.
no.
Yeah.
Mothers, I've come to agree. Mothers are made, not born, really. Like a
Mm.
lot of things. I think you.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, I didn't want to get into that whole thing. But the fact of the matter is that I think that, yeah, being once realizing that life is not perfect, you're not perfect,
Hmm.
and then you let go of all and you need to let go of all the imperfections in your present life, in your past life, makes for a much better experience on day to day and for the future. It just does, you
Yeah,
know.
it just make you a happier individual, more
Sure.
positive.
Yeah. And on that note, I
On
think
that note, thank you very much for joining me on these weekly Wednesday conversations.
yes, and if you can find some time, and what I know is a very busy life,
Mhm,
pick up a copy of Death in Venice. It's like I
mhm.
said, it reads very quickly. It's a short that basically it's like a long short story. Novella,
Yes.
really, it's like a
Yeah,
long
I love it.
and
Awesome.
and then of course if you have questions about it, by all means, you know how to reach me, you know.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. What's
How about you?
I'm good. Can you wipe your lens for me?
Oh, you're such a pill. I
Such a
hope
pill. Listen,
you're
just
right.
take your pill and enjoy it.
I know. Well, you know what? Um, let's see if this does. I mean, I don't. Well, I can't see anything. Hold on. Is there a difference?
Beautiful. See, we want to see your lovely face.
Oh, wait, you can actually see a difference?
Yes. Why do you think I annoy you and tell you this every single
Well,
time?
because I don't think I don't know why it should get. Now my wife will tell next time you hear, we have all these stainless steel appliances,
Yeah.
and she says, "Well, your hands are always greasy. I see fingerprints all on everything." And I said, first of all, my hands are my hands. I mean, I don't. They're dry. They feel dry to me. I don't think they
You
should.
know the all your fingerprints have like oils and stuff. Everything you touch, you leave a fingerprint and
Well,
oil
this is my
everywhere.
thing, and I'm saying to myself, well, why, I mean, she knows better than that, but she's another pill. She's the big pill. She's the
She's the
biggest
big
pill.
pill. I'm your second pill.
Absolutely.
But see, I'm the pill you enjoy.
Well, yeah. And then my third pill, also a female, is my library director because
Oh yeah, well, she's
she's
probably your second pill. I'm your third pill then.
but yeah, yeah, because like she's great. She's a great library. So that's a story. This you see this shirt now. This shirt
Yes.
is actually this is a Tommy Bahama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's silk. And I said it's kind of a crummy, uh, rainy, cloudy day, and I thought this was darker,
Yeah.
and it kind of fits my mood a little today. It's a little dark,
Yes.
a little
Yes.
background,
Yeah.
It's a story. But
Exactly.
other than that, I guess we were supposed to talk about Death in Venice today, yeah?
Death in Venice. Yes.
Yeah,
So
but
want me to
there's so
start?
many other. Is there anything else? I mean, uh, you know, like politically,
Mhm.
Warnock beat Walker. I mean, I don't know how anybody with half a brain could be voting for a person that has a quarter of a brain like Walker, okay, and is basically incoherent. And but I do know that the Trump, the majority of Trump voters, and he said it once because I love uneducated people,
He
and
said that?
yeah, he did say that. That was one of his quotes.
What?
Yeah, he said that way back and early
Oh
in his
my
campaign,
God.
and of course he obviously does because they'll vote for him. They don't seem to be able
Well,
to
yeah, that's what he's banking on, right?
yeah, because I don't think they're able to detect the nuances and stuff. I mean, how do you? Here's a guy he's really should be arrested, indicted, and as far as I'm concerned, executed for treason in this country. I mean, I can't, they're making it nice, like, oh, seditious, whatever, and
So
forget that.
what are some of the things that he did to be executed for treason?
Well, how about this? How about trying to stage a coup, uh, trying to overturn the government, elected, the newly elected president, and as far as I'm concerned, no, there's the definition of treason. I he kind of just maybe just misses it because it's supposed to be, basically colluding with the nation's enemy. But
Mm.
it's quite frankly, he's the enemy. It's really uh, January 6th was a really domestic terrorism, was what it was. And for me, like look how how we felt about the ISIS and the World Trade Center. That was
Mhm.
international terrorism. But now with domestic terrorism, it's worse and worse in this country.
Mhm.
But I